Carolina.
Clark fire away and hits a three. Clark launches and hits. Pure joy.
Something is off with Stephanie White. And before we get into the most dominant 3-game stretch Caitlin Clark has put together in the entire 2026 WNBA season, we need to say that out loud because it cannot keep being ignored.
Clark thought about the three, circles around, fires away, and hits!
White benched Clark right after she hit 2 consecutive threes against Washington.
Clark, bullseye!
The most dominant player in women's basketball right now is putting together performances that are literally rewriting the record books. And somehow, the biggest obstacle standing in her way might not be the defenses scheming against her, or the physicality of the league, or any opponent on the schedule. It might be her own coaching staff. Over the last 3 games, Caitlin Clark has delivered one of the most compelling individual stretches the WNBA has ever seen. Historic efficiency. Record-breaking playmaking, the kind of performances that only come around once in a generation. And yet during that exact same stretch, decisions are being made around her that don't add up. Minutes pulled at the worst possible moments. Injury explanations that contradict themselves. A head coach who can't answer a straightforward question about her best player's health without looking like she's hiding something. What's happening behind the scenes in Indiana is the biggest story in the WNBA right now, and nobody is breaking it down the way it deserves, until now. To understand why what Clark is doing right now matters so much, you have to understand what she went through to get here. Because 2025 nearly ended everything before it really started. Her rookie year in 2024 was a sensation. Rookie of the Year, record-setting assist numbers. She dragged the Fever to their first playoff appearance in 8 years and turned Indiana into must-watch television every single night. The hype was real. The expectations heading into year 2 were through the roof. And then 2025 happened, quad issues, a bone bruise, and finally a groin injury in July that shut her down for the rest of the season. 13 games. That's all she played, 13 out of 44. She averaged 16.5 points and nearly 9 assists in the games she did play, but the shooting fell apart. 27.9% from 3. The kind of number that makes people whisper about whether a player has lost her edge. The Fever still went 24-20 and made the semifinals, pushing Las Vegas to 5 games before going down. But the conversation around Clark shifted. The doubters got louder. The injury questions followed her everywhere. Was her body built for this level of physicality? Could she stay healthy long enough to deliver on the promise everyone saw in year 1? Now it's 2026, and 10 games into the season, she's averaging nearly 19 points per game and leading the entire league in assists. She's not just back. She's better than she's ever been. The 3-point shot that disappeared in 2025 has returned with a vengeance. The playmaking has reached a level that no guard her age has ever sustained in this league, and the efficiency numbers over her last 3 appearances are genuinely staggering. But the numbers only tell half the story. What happened over 3 specific games tells the rest. Indiana came out against Seattle and dropped 32 points in the first quarter, 32. Before Seattle's coaching staff could draw up a single meaningful adjustment, the game was effectively decided. And Clark was the engine behind every single possession that made it happen. 21 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds. And here's the part that makes the whole performance feel almost unfair. She only took 10 shots from the field. 10. That kind of scoring to attempt ratio only exists when a player is doing 2 things at once, converting at an extraordinary rate and drawing enough fouls to supplement the scoring without needing extra possessions. Clark did both. She went to the free throw line 9 times and didn't miss a single one. 9 for 9. Perfect. While simultaneously tracking 10 assists and 7 rebounds across the floor. The mental bandwidth required to manage all of that at once is the kind of thing that separates generational players from everyone else in the league. But the assists were the real story. She wasn't just finding open teammates. She was finding them before they were open, releasing passes to spots her teammates hadn't fully reached yet, operating on a processing speed that made Seattle's defensive rotations look like they were running through mud. Her reads were a full decision cycle ahead of the defense on nearly every meaningful possession. That performance gave her the 12th game of her career with 20-plus points and 10-plus assists, a brand new WNBA record. Nobody in the history of this league has reached that milestone as fast as she has. And then the triple-double watch started. She needed 4 more rebounds in the second half. 4. The building was buzzing. The energy was building towards something historic. And Stephanie White pulled her from the game. Seattle won the quarters where Clark's minutes were most limited. The correlation between Clark being on the floor and Indiana dominating, and Clark being off the floor and Indiana struggling, isn't subtle. It shows up in the quarter-by-quarter scoring every single time. But the decisions keep happening. She keeps getting pulled at the exact wrong moments for reasons that never quite get explained. And then the next game, she wasn't there at all. Clark was listed as a late scratch against Portland with back stiffness. No timeline, no specifics, no prior indication that anything was wrong. The Fever didn't even announce it until 5:20 in the evening, less than 2 hours before tip-off. She wasn't on the pre-game injury report. There had been zero mention of a back issue in the days leading up to the game. Nothing. The initial explanation from the organization was described as a strategic management plan. Load management dressed up in medical language. 4 games in 8 days, and the Fever apparently decided their franchise player needed a night off. But then White stepped in front of a microphone and contradicted the whole thing. She's healthy. We're not managing anything. This is just a back issue. So which one is it? Is she healthy or does she have a back issue? Is it load management or is it an injury? Because it can't be both. And the fact that the messaging from Indiana's own staff couldn't stay consistent for more than a few hours tells you everything you need to know about how this situation is being handled. The WNBA didn't let it slide either. The league issued an official warning to the Fever for the way they handled the injury report. That's not a minor thing. That's the league itself stepping in and saying something wasn't right about how this information was communicated. And when reporters followed up, White's body language told a story her words refused to. Evasive, visibly uncomfortable, deferring to the medical team, saying she doesn't disclose anything that hasn't already been disclosed by the franchise. The response of someone navigating something she either doesn't fully understand or doesn't want to explain on camera. That absence sits between the Seattle masterclass and what happened next like a question mark that nobody in Indiana has answered properly. And 2 days later, the supposedly injured player walked onto the court and delivered one of the best individual performances of her professional career. First quarter against the Valkyries, tight game. Indiana 19, Golden State 18. Clark was feeling things out, not forcing anything, just getting her rhythm back after the absence. Nothing alarming. Nothing dominant, just a professional basketball player easing into a game with no indication of what was about to happen. Second quarter, Golden State exploded. They outscored Indiana 26-18 and built their biggest lead of the night at 8 points. Tiffany Hayes was finding her spots. The Valkyries' bench was generating offense that Indiana's defense had no clean answer for. The crowd at Gainbridge went quiet. A player who was supposedly dealing with a back issue on her first game back was watching her team fall behind. The narrative of the evening was heading somewhere uncomfortable. And then the third quarter started, and Caitlin Clark decided the game was over. 29-17, Indiana. She came out of the locker room and the body language was completely different. She wasn't easing into possessions anymore. She was attacking the very first one before Golden State's defense could set its feet. She pushed pace in transition immediately, getting the ball up the floor in under 3 seconds, and converted a fast break that sent the first real wave of electricity through the building. Then the 3. She caught the ball above the break, Pump faked once to get the defender off balance, and released with her hand barely at eye level. It went in, and the crowd reacted with that specific delayed explosion that only Clark threes at big moments generate. Like the building needed a half second to process that it actually happened. Golden State called timeout, reset the scheme, tried to take away what she had just done. She drove past the new coverage on the very next possession and drew the foul. 2 free throws, made both. 5 points in roughly 45 seconds of game time. The emotional temperature of the entire arena shifted in under a minute. Then she picked up a technical foul, then a flagrant. 2 official actions in the same quarter against the same player. A lesser competitor crumbles after something like that, gets in her own head, lets the frustration eat into the next 3 or 4 possessions. Clark processed it in approximately 0 seconds, turned around, and made the next correct basketball decision like the whistle had never blown. That's the fire. The same intensity that generated the tech is the same intensity that was generating 5 points per 45 seconds. You can't separate them. You want one, you get the other. Aaliyah Boston was the direct beneficiary of everything Clark was creating. Every time Golden State's defense collapsed on Clark driving the baseline or attacking off the three-point line, Boston was receiving feeds in the post against single coverage. She finished with 20 points and 16 rebounds. On any other night, that's the headline. Inside the context of Clark's third-quarter destruction, it became supporting evidence of something bigger. When both of them are operating at full capacity, Indiana is simply not beatable by any team that doesn't have the defensive infrastructure of New York or Las Vegas. Clark finished the night with 22 points, 9 assists, and a third quarter that turned an 8-point deficit into a comfortable win. On her first game back from a mystery absence that nobody in the organization could explain consistently. But the most impressive part wasn't any single game. It was what all 3 performances revealed when you put them together. The statistical accumulation happening right now needs to be documented because it's genuinely historic, and it's being buried inside game-to-game coverage that focuses on wins and losses instead of what the numbers actually mean. During this stretch, Clark picked up her 500th career assist. She's now the fastest player in WNBA history to reach that milestone. Not one of the fastest. The fastest. Nobody has ever gotten there quicker. She's among the fastest players ever to hit the combined milestones of 1,000 points, 250 rebounds, and 250 assists. The kind of well-rounded statistical profile that only exists when a player is elite at multiple dimensions of the game simultaneously. The three-point recovery is its own conversation entirely. Early in the season, she was hovering around 20% from deep, and defenses were openly daring her to shoot. They were leaving her open on purpose, and she responded by shooting 41% against Washington, 44% against Golden State, and hitting at elite rates against Seattle in between. That correction from 20% to 44% over the span of a handful of games is the kind of shooting arc that defines MVP-caliber seasons when it happens at the right time on the right team. Her true shooting percentages across the Seattle and Golden State games were 75% and 64% respectively. Back-to-back elite efficiency performances that no point guard in the league is currently matching. And the scouting report against her right now is genuinely unsolvable. You can't sag off because she's hitting from well beyond the arc. You can't play her physical because she draws fouls at an absurd rate and converts them perfectly. You can't switch your coverage because she reads switches faster than defenders can execute them. There is no clean answer. Every defensive strategy has a counter, and she's executing all of them in the same game. So if the player is doing all of this, rewriting records, posting historic efficiency, carrying her team through games with generational individual impact, why does it feel like the people around her keep getting in the way? Let's put the pattern together because at this point, it's impossible to look away from. Clark gets benched immediately after hitting back-to-back threes against Washington. The opposing team goes on a run the moment she sits down. Clark gets pulled from the Seattle game while she's on active triple-double watch with 4 rebounds to go, and the game's still competitive. Seattle wins the quarters where her minutes are most limited. Clark misses the Portland game entirely. The explanation changes depending on who you ask and when you ask them. Load management, back stiffness. She's healthy. We're not managing anything. The WNBA issues a formal warning for the way it was handled. Clark comes back against Golden State, plays a full game, picks up a tech and a flagrant in the same quarter, drops 22 and 9, and delivers a third-quarter performance that single-handedly erases an 8-point deficit and ends the game. There's even a moment, captured on a fan's camera, where Clark and White are visibly going back and forth during a timeout. A heated exchange on the sideline that tells you the tension isn't just something outsiders are imagining. It's real, it's visible, and it's building. Now here's the important part. Nobody is saying Stephanie White is a bad coach. She's taken teams to the semifinals 3 straight seasons. She was coaching when Indiana made its last finals appearance. Her track record speaks for itself on a general level. The question isn't about competence. The question is about optimization. Is the coaching environment around Caitlin Clark actually designed to maximize Caitlin Clark? Or is it designed around something else? Because the decisions being made around the most talented player in this league look deeply suspicious when you line them up side by side. The benching patterns, the evasive injury communication, the pulled minutes at the exact moments when Clark is reaching her statistical peaks. Rumors suggest there's a disconnect happening behind the scenes that goes deeper than substitution patterns and minutes management. Reports claim the relationship between Clark and the coaching staff has been a topic of internal conversation for weeks. And while none of that has been confirmed publicly, the on-court evidence is piling up in a way that's getting harder and harder to explain away as coincidence. Indiana sits at 7-5, third in the Eastern Conference, with the foundation of a legitimate contender. Clark is playing the best basketball of her professional career. Boston is delivering double-doubles like clockwork. Mitchell is converting at the free throw line with the calm of a closer who's been doing this for years. The pieces are there. But the New York Liberty are next on the schedule, and that's the first genuinely elite test of where this team actually stands. Against Liberty-level defensive pressure, with Liberty-level personnel, every coaching decision around Clark gets magnified. Every pulled minute costs more. Every vague explanation about health or rest carries more weight. There's no room for the kind of decisions we've seen over these last 3 games when you're facing the best team in the league. Clark has proven she's ready. 3 consecutive performances that rank among the most impressive individual stretches of the entire 2026 season. Historic efficiency, record-breaking milestones, a 3-point shot that went from broken to lethal in the span of a few games, a playmaking ability that no defense in the league has figured out how to contain. She's done everything a franchise player can possibly do to show that she's operating at a level most players never reach. The Fever are 5-2 when she plays. The records keep falling. The performances keep escalating. And the most dominant player in women's basketball is just getting started. The real question isn't whether Caitlin Clark can carry Indiana deep into the postseason. She's already answering that every time she steps on the floor. The real question is whether everything around her, the decisions, the communication, the coaching framework, will finally get out of the way and let her do what she was built to do. Because right now, the biggest threat to Indiana's championship hopes isn't New York. It isn't Las Vegas. It isn't any team on the schedule. It might be Indiana itself.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.